Let's see. Happy Thursday, everyone. I'm Thea Parker. I am one of the housing specialists here. I'm waiting for my director, Ms. Renee, to come in. We're going to wait a few minutes and give some other people some time to come on. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat. We will be answering questions live. I have Ms. Renee, the director of the section program, is going to be here. And we have some questions that have been emailed to us about the program and how it works. And we're going to be answering those live.
Good evening. My name is Renee Gray, and I am the director of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. I hope you can hear me just fine. We also have with me Ms. Thea Parker. Thea Parker is one of our Housing Choice Voucher specialists. And we'll have her introduce herself a little bit more once she returns. I do apologize for the delay. We were hoping to have a few more people on. There were a few who said there were definitely more than who said they would be logging in this evening. But nonetheless, we're going to proceed. And today's session, we wanted to talk more about, or pretty much answer a lot of the questions that we've received. But before we get there, I just wanted to briefly explain that we administer the Housing Choice Voucher Program here at the Housing Authority, as well as public housing units that we also have. But for me, I'm going to speak primarily of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So with the Housing Authority, our mission or our priority is to house families who are of lower income and to add a little bit more or more of affordable housing to the Lee County area. And in our goals, and meeting those goals, we hope to have a lot of owners who would be willing to aid in that process with us. So when it comes to the voucher program, customers are issued a voucher that are determined eligible. The voucher pretty much gives the family the leeway to locate housing within the private sector, because with the voucher program, we do not have a specific unit that the customer would move into. Each participant has free will to locate housing on their own. And upon locating the housing, they have to be able to find an owner who's willing to participate and accept them along with their voucher. So when participating with the program, a few of the things that we have to take care of or make sure is, one, the family qualifies. You, on the end of the owner, you too have to make sure they would qualify for you. If you have a set criteria, and if you don't, it's pretty good to establish something that you would put in effect for any person who came your way. But it's great to have a criteria to determine the participant or whichever tenant that's coming your way eligible as a renter. When it comes to the voucher program here with the Housing Authority, we have specific paperwork that we would provide the family with once they are determined eligible. If you are a current participating owner, then you would be familiar with what everyone calls our pink packet. And it's pretty much just color-coded pink. It's on pink paper where we print all of the information. And it's HUD required document and some housing authority forms that we've decided to have completed, because a lot of the times the forms that are required by HUD are improperly completed. So in the process of making sure that we account for everything appropriately, we then attach a form where we ask a couple of questions, and you would list information regarding your property, as well as what utilities the family would be eligible for, what rent obligation you're requesting, the amount of a security deposit you're requesting. And when it comes to that family being determined eligible, you have to take them through whatever approval process you have. The Housing Authority, once determining the family eligible, we do a minimal background check. But our background check may not be as intense as yours may. Issues that the customers may have had when it comes to renting. For instance, if they have been evicted prior, that's not an issue that we would hold against the families. And hopefully it's not an instance that you would hold against them indefinitely, especially taking into consideration that having the voucher may be this participant's way of getting out of that financial bind where maybe when they were evicted, they were going through a lot of financial issues. We've had so many customers who became disabled at a time where they had their life seemed to have been booming. They had a lot of income coming in and were able to support themselves. But in the process, they became disabled. And once they became disabled, having the ability to meet their rental obligation is what became impossible or a strain for them, which potentially led to them being evicted or having whatever other financial issues that may have arose during that time frame. So we would definitely ask you to consider the fact that maybe if this is their voucher participation for the very first time, or maybe within recent years, that's always something that you could feel free to contact us and request additional information on. Because a person's past shouldn't follow them indefinitely. And we have had some instances where management companies may deny a customer that had an issue 20 years ago, and they've never had another issue since. And I do respect your policy, and I understand if it's what you're imposing on everyone, but having a little bit of flexibility allows the customers to be able to utilize the voucher. And hopefully it would aid you to have a good tenant that would appreciate the opportunity, as well as, give an opportunity so that their past doesn't haunt them indefinitely, because everyone does deserve a second chance. So when you are processing your background checks, you're going to follow whatever protocol you have in place. We have some instances where after that background check, then if you approve the customer, then the customer will give you the pink packet that I mentioned, then is returned to our agency, and it's the initiation of beginning that approval process for that customer to occupy your unit. Once the customer has given you that packet, the packet returns to us, it then, will initiate or schedule an inspection for your unit. That's did with an agency or by an agency that's called, oh my goodness, Landmark Properties. I'm sorry. We've hired Landmark inspection company to our inspections. They will contact you, the owner or manager, directly, simply to schedule and conduct the inspection. After that point, it would then all come back to the housing authority. If you have any questions regarding HAP or any other issues, you're dealing with the housing authority directly. So once the unit has passed inspection, we will then proceed to the rent approval process. Once we go through the rent approval process, that's also sort of outsourced through gosection8.com, where we pay the company to provide comps for us. And that's how we process the rent approvals for every customer that participates, or for every home that the customers decide to rent. And once that approval is met, you will then be approved to enter into a lease agreement. The family can take occupancy, and we'll proceed with the HAP contract, providing everything is passed inspection, rents approved, so forth. And then we begin the process with your new tenant, where hopefully you'll have a great experience. Minimum time frame of a lease is 1 year for that initial occupancy. At initial occupancy, it has to be a 1 year lease agreement. It cannot be a month-to-month lease, but it can go on to a month-to-month after your initial term under HAP contract. We don't mandate the time frame of continued tenancy. If you decide to enter into a 1 year lease agreement annually, then by all means, that's acceptable by us. We have many instances where the only time there was a 1 year agreement was the initial first year that the family lived in the unit, and every year thereafter, excuse me, it went into a month-to-month lease agreement. It's just depending on each owner or management how they choose to handle that type of situation. So if you should choose to enter into a lease agreement every year, that's fine. And you would simply provide us with a copy of the lease agreement. We would need a fully executed copy. And it's a good idea to make sure the lease agreements are entered into in a timely fashion to ensure that our renewal time frame coincides with your lease agreement. It gets a little tricky if you offset that time frame, which happens quite often with owners or managers when maybe you sent out a renewal lease agreement and maybe your tenant didn't reply on time. And because they didn't reply on time, you didn't prepare the lease at the same time as normal. And maybe it didn't get signed for a month or two later. And now that's changing your lease renewal time, but it will never change our renewal time. So our renewal time is going to remain the same. And it's just a good rule of thumb. If you've completed it late, make sure it expires at the same time as the renewal so that you receive your reminders at the same time, and the customer could potentially then give notice to vacate at that same time. We begin that process and request as an owner, if your request it's a renewal, that you request a rental increase at least 60 days in advance, providing our agency with a copy, because we always have to go through the rent approval process. Okay? After all has been approved, even for the initial occupancy and your tenant moves in, you enter into a HAP contract, HAP begins. One of the awesome perks we have on now is our landlord incentive program. And with the landlord incentive program, we're offering any new property that we have contract for. And when I say new, one that has not been on the program prior, as long as it's a new property or a new apartment, duplex, whatever the case, then you would receive a one-time $500 incentive for accepting a voucher participant. This is in place or been in place since November 2020. And as we process these, you have a maximum of 5 units to add. So a maximum of 5, I shouldn't say a maximum of 5 units you can add. You can add as many as you like, rent to as many of our participants as you like. However, you have a maximum of 5 incentives that you're able to receive. Okay? So if you rented to 6 new units to 6 different participants, you'll receive $500 for the first 5, and then those after that, you wouldn't receive any additional incentives. The incentive is a one-time payment. It will not go out monthly along with HAP. But when you do receive it, you will receive it within 2 months of entering into a HAP contract. We definitely need to make sure that HAP is on file, completely signed. Okay? We got some questions. All righty. Hopefully you guys understand the process that I explained. And if there's anything that you need clarity on, feel free to hit the chat and we'll answer any questions you have. Before we proceed, I wanted to introduce Ms. Thea. I know she probably did a little introduction about you. You told them who you are, what you do. Okay. We've had that.
I see Mr. Mann is asking, the first thing you have printed there about can you submit rent increases request online instead of via mail?
Well, I'm able to do so by email, but within our website, I don't think we have that capability as of yet, because typically they're connected to your specific tenant. So whenever that tenant has a rent increase, There's actually a lot of owners who will email those notices out to their tenant and the caseworker simultaneously. So if they're done at the same time and you just have those multiple emails in there, one, we know the family received it, and two, it ensures that we receive it. And it's an awesome thing for us both to have it at the same time or receive it at the same time. One of the biggest issues we have is that owners will notify the customers but don't include the housing authority, and or instances where the customer wasn't notified nor the housing authority, but at the last moment, management is presenting a 1-year lease agreement to the family with an increase. That could pose a major financial issue for the customer, especially when there's no preparation for it. So please make sure you give your customers, your tenants, our customers, at least 60 days advance notice. And it needs to be provided to the housing authority at least 60 days in advance so that we can get that rent approved. Anytime you pose a rental increase, it has to go through that same rent approval process that I mentioned happens at initial occupancy. And that's a rule that HUD sets. We cannot bypass it. And it just makes life easier when you're able to give the tenant proper notice and the housing authority. One, it ensures that the process will get completed in a timely fashion. What we were experiencing today, it's the 11th of February, and we've got owners calling all the time, and a few were upset because they were delayed, to be honest. But they were upset that we didn't drop everything and accommodate their rent increase, that they prepared for the family, like with 2 to 3 days left at the end of January, and the family signed it, which is fine, the family signed it, but we at no point received 60 days advance notice. And there's we just want to be considered the same way you'd want to be considered. We've completed paperwork by this point, proper notice had gone out, and basically we have to redo everything. We're dealing with the federal government when it comes to the Housing Choice Voucher Program. It's not as simple as just plugging in a new rent amount. We have to now recreate all of the recertification process and packet and resend it. So it becomes very tedious. So please adhere to that and give your tenant 60 days notice. Provide the housing authority with at least a minimum of 60 days notice. And if you enter into a lease agreement with the family and haven't provided us the notice early or in advance, that's fine, but we're going to process it once we've completed what we need to do. We're not going to stop or we can't just ignore what's mandated to happen just because today you're threatening to evict your tenant when you yourself haven't given your tenant proper notice of that increase. So please be mindful of that because it can become a financial burden to our customers as well.
Mr. Manny says, any plans on making the pink packets available electronically and or making the process online?
We hope to in the future, but that's going to be a little tedious because when it comes to the pink packet, if I just put it out there on our website, everybody will grab it and everybody will complete it. I received recertification paperwork for someone who's not even a participant. How did they get it? I don't know what occurred, how this person got access to the paperwork, and things like that happen all the time. We'll actually, from time to time, receive that pink packet when a customer is not even certified. So the process is set that the customer must provide you with the pink packet because it is the customer's choice to locate housing. So we provide it to that family and the family must give it to you. Unfortunately, I sincerely doubt the packet will become electronic or just posted on our website, but that doesn't mean it necessarily wouldn't be electronic in the future. We're not completely there yet, But we are working out a few things where still, even if we were to send it to the family electronically, it would be up to them. But that fear is there that that customer is going to submit that packet to multiple owners. And once it's submitted to multiple owners, we have multiple owners expecting us to follow through with the process, and we're not going to do so. That's why we issue one packet at a time, so we can follow through with this one and determine eligible. If a client had their choice, they'd submit 10 of them and make us go through all the process of 10 units, and whatever one works out best for them in is where they're gonna go. So we do adamant on the customer making a choice, narrowing down their choices before they hand out that pink packet. Okay?
And then he said, Landmark has been calling out rather minor repairs and failing the inspection because of these. For example, a slow draining sink, which is almost always caused by tinted hair. What I do not see is any cleanliness or hygiene requirement being asked of tenants to maintain the home. In other words, the inspections have been extremely one-sided. How can your agency better hold the tenants accountable?
That's an area where you're actually, as the owner, will need to hold them accountable. What we're able to hold them accountable is pretty much set by the federal government. So we have our housing quality standards that are set and our UPCS that we have to follow, and we do. And although it may seem like Landmark's being a little picky or hard on minimal issues, it's actually what is stated in the guidelines. The only thing I could suggest, and maybe
Now, is this for
when it,
certification?
yeah, that's what I was wondering. So I'm assuming, Manny, that we're referring to annual inspections or biennials because we're moving over to 2 years for inspections. Let me know if it's one of those routine ones versus an initial, because what we can what we can possibly do is work on creating a notice for the families. Like every year, along with their recertification, maybe some little tips of what they can do, how to handle some minor issues. I mean, we all have slow drain at some point. I'm not on the voucher program, but hey, my hair clogs up the drain just like everybody else. It has the potential to. But I routinely put my baking soda and vinegar in the drain. You know, sometimes it's just small little tips to try and get the families, you know, to take care of issues. In order for us to cite the family on cleanliness, no problem. When you cite them on cleanliness, chances are they do a better job when they know we're coming out for an inspection. So we may not see it on the same level as you do. But definitely when we have major hoarding situations or major issues that prevent us from accessing the unit, and that's when we're going to definitively cite the family. There are issues when it comes to infestation that families are constantly cited. It's not on the owner in those instances, it's on the family. And that would be, you know, just bugs and things that are building up in the unit. And as an owner, if this particular tenant is the cause of that, you want to cite them as well, and you want to tell them what they need to do to keep up with the unit. We've had many of owners who, from the start, take a very proactive approach when they don't know their tenant, they don't know this person. They come to them and they're taking a chance on them. And from the start, they tell that family, I'm going to come by on whatever date they decide to schedule. And they make it a routine date. And I think that works very good for many families. For instance, the second Friday of every month at whatever time or Saturday. And I know not every owner is able to do that. but it gives you a good opportunity to check out what kind of tenant you have. And I say be stern from the start. This is what I accept. I'm not accepting anything less. I expect you to care for my property. You are a tenant. You treat it as if you would your own. And with that being said, this is what I consider clean. Because clean to one is not clean to the next. Which is sad to say, but it is the reality. And I probably said enough on that. Ms. Dan?
I wanted to say something from the perspective of being a landlord before. I've managed Section 8 homes before for out of town investors, and I know that it can be when you're not actually at the property or checking it yourself and you're hiring someone else to do it. I think it's very important that you have a conversation with your landlord or whoever the person is that's managing it to make sure that your lease agreement states what you. Oh no, I hope not. I still see it, Manny. I still see it.
Maybe there's a delay.
There's a delay right here. I'm watching it right here. So it's important to have those conversations with your landlords, with your property manager companies, to let them know what you expect, exactly what Ms. Renee said, what I expect clean to be. If they need to do these quarterly meetings, these quarterly check-ins, just to make sure, just like she said, this is a stranger. You don't know how they keep house. You're back. Awesome. Thanks, Manny. You don't know how they keep house unless in my day, I would go and inspect the previous home that my tenants actually lived in. That was one of my perks with bingo. I would go and see how they lived at the last place before I put them in my place. That was part of the background check. That's a little tip. Background. Let me see the last place you lived in. I want to know how you lived there. So that gave me an idea if you kept that place up, or if you just hurried up and cleaned it up because I was coming on Friday at 7. You know that was, you can tell the difference in housekeeping skills, or if there was someone that just had no idea how to keep house. And you, as the landlord, just like Ms. Renee said at the beginning, being stern, give, giving them names and types of products to clean the stains out. This works great on the floors. They may not have any idea. This could be their first home. This could be the first time they're living with just them and their kids or living alone. They have no idea how to keep house. So I think it's important for us to be open and just be sometimes intentional means they don't know. It could go both ways. So they need some coaching and some help in situations. So check out the last place they lived in. Set up like Ms. Renee said, every 3 months. I'm coming by to change that. I need you to go by every first Friday of the month. You may only do that for the first 6 months until you get to know your tenant. But you put that in your lease agreement and y'all agree to that in writing. It is what it is, right? So I just wanted to give you a few tips with managing the tenants on the cleanliness. But you're right about that, man. Sometimes that
Thinking. And some of the times when you rent the customers your property, we take that for granted. We assume they understand. I've had so many customers. We know in our area we have a lot of well usage, a lot of wells installed, and what is it called? Water softener systems. I've heard different labels to them, but I think you guys know what I mean, even though I'm not using the politically correct terms. Even let's say a glass top stove. And they don't know the first thing about maintaining or keeping, taking care of those things. So it's a good idea, a good rule of thumb to make sure you go through each point with the customer regarding the unit that they will rent with you. Appliances, different things to maintain, because a lot of times we take it for granted and we assume everyone understands because you understand. Okay. Oh, no problem.
Yeah, what else did he talk about? I mean, yes, annual. So he's at 100% right. Now I am notifying both the tenant and your housing authority 60 days by certified mail. It would be much easier to do this via email. Now that I know I can, I will email instead. Thanks.
Yes, email is fine. Oh, certified mail costs too much. So definitely email, just send it to both of us. There are some owners who post it on the customer's door. They've got a little renewal form that says they posted, or they check off if they mailed it or hand delivered, whatever the case is, and they'll still. So there's flexibility there. Just make sure you get it to us 60 days in advance so that hopefully your rent can get approved on time and we can proceed. Okay. Any more questions?
No, that was it.
That's it.
Yeah.
We have a few more questions that came through on the site. Similar question to what Manny asked regarding the rental increase and renewal of lease agreement. So we covered that. And there was a question on whether or not the rental agreement needed to be updated every year. And I did mention that earlier. We don't mandate you prepare a new one-year lease annually or biannually. It's up to you on that process, whether you choose to enter into a new one-year lease annually, or if you do so only at the initial occupancy and allow it to extend on a month-to-month tenancy after that point. Even under a month-to-month tenancy, you could still process a rental increase. The only time we would mandate a one-year lease agreement or you entering into a new one is if you had a change of terms. A rental increase does not signify a change of terms. A change in terms of your lease would be initially water was included, some type of major change, but not just routine rental increase. You can still pose a rental increase without conducting or entering into a new one-year lease agreement, and simply forward us a copy of that notice still 60 days in advance, and we will continue with HAP in the same fashion as we had been doing previously.
If it should read like in terms of language.
There isn't. We do not have any format that's set in stone. A simple email to the customer proposing whatever adjustments is acceptable by us. So whatever you have in place, you can continue to use it. We're not going to tell you you can't. But a simple email proposing the rent increase and CC, it makes it easier for a lot of owners. If you do have a form, because it's just as simple as putting the client's name, address, and checking off whatever applies. It's usually already set, giving the customer a set amount of time to respond to you. And if they respond to you or meet before your deadline, it's kind of an opportunity to also remind them on how much of a notice they need to give you if they should choose to move, and notifying you of something like that as well. So being thorough is always awesome, where you can cover yourself or giving them the option to accept or not, and or reminding them of the time frame to vacate. So if your lease states they need to give you 45 days advance notice, that's a great opportunity to remind them in that kind of a notice.
Most things I remember or have information of the direct contact.
I sincerely doubt the customers don't know who their caseworkers are. At the same time of renewal, they receive the letters, and the letters have the case manager's name on it. all printed out through the system. So just scroll to the bottom of your letter, and you're going to want to make sure that those notices get directly to the case manager that's listed. If you forwarded it to, if you don't know who the case manager is, we actually have a new email address, relatively new email address, just for the HCB department. And it's hcvp@hacfm.org. And Theo's going to type that in, I'm sure, to our chat. But HCVP stands for Housing Choice Voucher Program, at H as in housing, A, authority, C, city, F, Fort, M, Myers.org. And if you were to go to our agency's website, click the links, this is the email address it immediately takes you to. I have a few more questions that were emailed. I'm not sure what. Did I? Oh, that's me. As an owner, I'm sure if you're all participating owners, you're interested in obtaining your 1099s. And we have been having some issues with our website. So along with your HAP payment that went out on the 1st of the month, there was an attachment. You usually receive an email. It is important, if you don't receive that email routinely or didn't, that you update your email address with us, because after we send out HAP at any given time, an email soon follows that has a list of the customers to which payment was received, and it itemizes the customer as well as the amount that was paid on behalf of them line by line. So please contact us with an update if your email address has changed or the contact person has changed, which happens a lot of times in management companies. And then the new person or the people who are left behind, they weren't the contact source. Therefore, you're unable to receive the information. But it can always be updated, so please be sure to log in. You're able to access the Landlord portal from our agency's website. And again, our website, I didn't say it, I said again, is hac.org, the abbreviation or acronym that I mentioned earlier. H is in housing, A is in authority, C is in city, F is in Fort, M as in Myers.org. From our agency's website, we've been updating this site, so we'll soon have a new one that appears there, but it'll remain the same address, but we are currently updating it. So the screen, probably like from the main screen to the right below the major heading, you'll have the portal. And it'll say owner/landlord portal. And also tenants, the customers can have access to certain things as well. But you as an owner, you're going to go to that landlord portal. From there, if you've never registered, you will need to register. And once you register, you're going to need to make sure that all of your information is in line or coincides with the information that was provided to us, the proper social and or tax ID, and the name spelled properly, whether it's the company, whether it's a specific individual. You want to make sure all of that information coincides. If you cannot access and or set up a login, then you definitely reach out to us here, and we will, at that same address that I gave you, the email address, hcvp@hacfm.org, so that we can help clear up those issues for you. You will have to be able to provide us with substantial information in order for us to proceed, because we don't want to just give anyone access to someone's records. We've been told by our our company, our software provider, that multiple people in one company could actually register. You'll have your own username and registration or login info in order to access the accounts. And that makes it a lot easier when you have multiple people. Always keep the frame of mind if you're operating or within a real estate company. If you have multiple agents with access, one or two is better than one. So if one should leave or something should happen to that person's access, hopefully the other individual will be able to gain access to the records. Within the portal, you will receive year-to-date totals of half that we've paid for current year, prior year. You will receive information regarding your 1099s. The 1099 will be visible there. Some people have had success with that, but not everyone. We've been having some internet issues, as you guys are experiencing as well. Even in the chat, you've told us about it. And we're working hard to try and get it resolved. We've got the internet issue. We've been having some server issues. So it's a matter of getting everything up and running properly so that our software can connect with it properly, so that you can access your records properly as well. Meantime, if you haven't been able to access your 1099s and you've successfully created a login, then please just shoot us an email and we will forward it over to you directly. Okay?
Manny is asking about updating his address he received an error in the portal. He said, may he send the address update to the email address above, the HA.
You can. Yeah, you can. And we're going to have to check with our finance because in the past they've mandated a new W-9 being completed because they just want to make sure the address is on file the same. That everything coincides with the W-9, so to speak. So if you're able to pull that, Manny, it would be greatly appreciated. You can just Google it, IRS W-9 form, and complete it. You can type it online, print it, sign it, because we would need your signature on it, and forward it over to that same website, and we'll make the adjustments for you. We actually keep that W-9 in your file, in your electronic file, and that's been what's mandated. So we're going to probably need to talk with our finance department a little bit more about that, and because I know within the system, it's supposed to give you the ability to change or update your address information. So I'm not sure 100% what's accessible and what is not.
So he said he'll send it up, man, no problem. Hi, Leslie Cook. Thank you for joining us. Hello. I apologize. Came in late. What was the answer in regards to the questions about packets being available?
They will not be made available from the website because the customers have to choose where they want to lease a property at. And if we just had it sitting out there, everyone would just print it, and we'd have packets left and right, even for customers who haven't been authorized to move or haven't given proper notice to move, and especially for people who aren't even participants, but they want to participate. So there's a method to the madness, and hopefully there will become an electronic version in the near future. But for now, this is we've got to do it the old-fashioned way, primarily because we kind of have to curb how many are out there and how many we have coming back from one customer, any one customer. Okay.
Let's see. Leslie said a UPC code on the packet would work. No?
We're working on that. We're actually working on that. So in the near future, It's going to be our primary way for customers to provide us with information. So our goal for the future is to have, what are they called? It's like it's machines that kind of look like a huge copier, where customers will be able to log in and they'll have a code that links the data directly to their file. So of course, that is what we're looking for in the future. And it's immediate future, to be honest. So of course, that would be one way to limit and for us to count. It'll be a way of limiting it to that specific customer because that code will be linked. It's not UPC. What's
QR
that?
code?
QR code is what we are looking to have. And our software provider is telling us that they can make it possible. So that for every customer, it'll help complete your recertifications, it'll help with also when it comes to the moving.
Yeah,
Because I'm sure electronically, it'll be a way to limit how and or count how many of those we receive back for any given customer.
Because Manny said physical taxes are a major challenge for out-of-state landlords such as myself. I have had to attend to scan and email them, so I can definitely
Right.
understand that.
Right. I 100% understand that, Manny, and we actually tell the customers that they have to. But some customers will find it challenging, but you can find fax machines or the ability to scan is almost always readily available. If a customer directly told me, hey, can you send this over to a specific owner? I do it because the family themselves is asking me. If I have an owner asking me, I'm not going to do it because I don't know for a fact that that customer even wants to rent with you. I've literally, over the years, have received so many packets back from an owner where the customer claimed to have cut ties and told the owners that they weren't interested in renting the unit, and they still came back in. And I know that sounds a little crazy, and it's probably extreme situations, but it has happened quite often. And it could be that the customer was a little afraid to open their mouths and actually tell the owner directly, I've changed my mind about your unit and I want to rent something else. In some instances, it could be a financial issue. The client may not be 100% ready to move in and meet all of the expenses for your property. And sometimes they get very fearful with just being direct and open about what their situation is. So that's the main reason why we rely totally on the family to provide it directly to the owner.
That is true. That is one of the reasons I do it for owners. Has to be included in our fee. So let me pick once your property manager.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I 100% understand that. We have had customers who are disabled and may not have those resources, may not have the convenience of relying on someone to assist them, that were their paperwork on.
With any more questions, and thank you for joining us.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Interesting session. It went faster and smoother than what I thought.
Everyone, please subscribe to our channel. I want to get the name actually changed to the City of Fort Myers Housing Authority, and I need 100 subscribers. So please, please, please subscribe to the channel so I can make it easier to find. Let's see, Manny said it's good to know that the tenant can ask the case agent to email it. In the past, we have been told the caseworker cannot email the packet.
And that's been primarily because an owner requests as opposed to the customer. We will not if you're the one making the request. The customer himself has to be the one to say, hey, can you email this over? And we would. We would. We're definitely not trying to create an obstacle. We just don't, in most instances, know what's going on. So again, I'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening. We appreciate it thoroughly. Please, please continue to filter your questions our way. We'd like to offer you whatever information you want to know, because it's kind of routine when I'm just going over the same regulatory things week after or time after time when we have these meetings. We're on schedule to hold these webinars every 2 weeks.
Yep, every other day.
Yeah, every other Thursday at 5 p.m. So please add any information. Feel free to email. Miss B is the one who contacts you guys by email.
Yes.
So shoot her back any questions, any replies, any ideas. We're open to them. Like Manny's idea about holding the customers responsible for. I mean, it would probably be an awesome idea to just create a little flyer about taking care of the units. Yeah. Maybe some input from you guys as the owners, some ideas of what could be created, put on that flyer. That would be helpful because we'll definitely prepare it and make sure that we hand it out to our customers. We go over the basics as far as taking care of the units. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you all. This is amazing. Thank you for putting these together. It's proactive and very informative. Yay.
Thank you so much, Manny. That's what we're shooting for.
Go, right?
We're hoping for that.
I am working on sending, I'm trying not to send so many emails. I'm trying to send at least one a week until we're here. So this week we focus on this. So I send you an email to let you know what's coming up and the email to let you know it's live. But next week I'll start sending out, we'll get a newsletter. I'll start sending out a newsletter for the landlords. It's going to be called the Landlord Link. So we'll have some updates, important information, some events, anything that Ms. Renee wants to reiterate to say it's very important at this time of year or research, anything like that will be included and your input is needed. What do you need to know? Be reminded of, need more information and more questions, and we can include that in our newsletter.
And if you have any available properties that you'd like,
yes, absolutely.
I mean, they don't have to solely be for our customers, but we would like it. We are certifying customers. We've got quite a bit who are new coming onto the program, being issued vouchers. A lot of our disabled and veteran communities that are smaller households, and maybe you all don't necessarily have those smaller units, but maybe 1 to 2 bedroom units will be 100% beneficial. We ask as the participating owner to go to gosection8.com. And Thea's going to put that in the comment section because we can in a clean way, print out all of the listings on Go Section 8 and pass that on to our customers. If you are technologically challenged, he is willing to take the information and she creates a different listing that she also is passing on to customers. So again, we appreciate you. We appreciate your contributions. The fact that you even would house some of the customers, because without you, this program would not even, it wouldn't be possible. So we do thank you for all that you do and wish you all a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, right. It'll be fine.